Good morning to all of our friends and colleagues here in the United States, and good evening to all of our viewers on the beautiful continent of Africa. Welcome to this webinar, Accessing African Children's Literature Through Online Resources. I am sure that you will find it an informative session. It is sponsored by the Africa Committee of the International Relations Committee of the American Library Association. Hi. I'm Janet Lee, Dean Emerita from Denver, Colorado. I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer, Ethiopia, and a recent Fulbright scholar serving in the historic town of Aksum, Ethiopia. Fellow members of the committee include Marie Priva, Chair, Eric Ponder, who will join us during the Q&A session, Laverne Page, and Vivian Bordeaux. Please feel free to enter your name and location in the chat box to help us better know our audience. If you are interested in becoming a member of the committee, please enter that information in the chat box as well. The session is being recorded, including the chat box for later viewing. I will introduce the speakers who will deliver their presentations. Eric and I will then follow up with questions that are entered in the Q&A box on your screen. Okay. I have had the great pleasure of working with both of our speakers and have found them to be passionate about their projects. It is a passion that I assume everyone in the audience also shares, providing quality children's literature that speaks to children around the world, often in first language or mother tongue. Our first speaker is Brenda Randolph. She is president of Africa Access and outreach director at Title VI Center for African Studies, Howard University. She founded Africa Access to combat stereotypes about Africa and help schools, public libraries, and parents improve the quality of their K-12 collections on Africa. Africa Access, in collaboration with the African Studies Association, founded the Children's Africana Book Award that honors the authors and illustrators of outstanding K-12 books on Africa. It can be found at africaaccessreview.org, and I will include the address in the chat box momentarily. Our second speaker is Dorcas Wepukhulu. Dorcas is the Eastern and Western Africa, Kenya-based partner development coordinator for the African Storybook, a literacy initiative of the South African Institute for Distance Education. She is a trained teacher with 18 years of teaching experience in Kenya, a writer and translator of children's contextually appropriate storybooks. She is passionate about capacitating educators and communities to use technology to exercise their agency by developing and using high quality, multilingual literature, including open educational resources for the improvement of literacy for children in sub-Saharan countries. So I will stop sharing my screen so that Brenda may speak. And we have allowed time for our Q&A session, which will be followed by Dorcas. Following the presentations. So remember to fill in the blank, fill in the chat and Q&A boxes.
Let me begin by saying that children's books on Africa published in the US have definitely improved over recent decades. This slide of our book ambassadors highlights just a few of the recommended books on our Read Africa list. In the 1960s, when I began my professional career, books about Africa were often shockingly racist, inaccurate, and ethnocentric. Problems have continued into recent decades as some writers will recycle old stereotypes, and there are still far too many books that treat Africa as a country, divide Africans into so-called tribes, or are written by people with limited knowledge of Africa. Let me say that a safari trip to Kenya does not equip one with the knowledge to write a book about Kenya. The devastating impact of this racist and biased literature on children has been ably documented by scholars. In the Africa Access database that we will explore shortly, I have created a resource list of bibliography of books by these scholars. Accurate, balanced books on Africa are certainly essential for all children, but particularly so for children of African descent. As Professor Rudine Bishop so aptly noted years ago, for people who have been made nearly invisible or made the object of ridicule, the image maker has the vast potential for changing their world by changing both the way they see themselves and the way they are seen by others. The impact of positive books on Africa was dramatically brought home to me when I read the book Galimoto to a class of second graders. After the story, a little girl pulled me aside and whispered, "Please read more books like Galimoto to my class. These children don't know anything about Africa. They say terrible things to me. This book shows what Africa is really like." She was a recent immigrant from Liberia, and I would say that this 8-year-old knew who she was, she knew what her home was like, and she quickly recognized a book that reflected her reality. In similar fashion, the book The Fortune Tellers rang true to Professor Vivian Ogbo's sons. Looking at the book, her 7-year-old said, "Oh, it's Africa people." "No," the 6-year-old protested, "it's Cameroonian people." From the illustrations, he was able to identify a specific group of people, his people, whose cultural experience he had actually participated in before coming to the United States. These young children were still rooted in their specific cultural experiences in Liberia and in Cameroon, experiences that they would have no doubt shared had anyone listened. How well do we as librarians give voice to newcomers to America? How well do we support and expand their knowledge of their homelands? How well do we champion their pride in their cultures as they move through our schools? Well, I would say my experience says often we don't do that well. By the time immigrant children reach middle school, they may ditch their given names in favor of more American names. They may deny their homelands completely if the books, lessons, and educators send them negative images of Africa. During my years as a middle school librarian, I had many opportunities to shape and to gauge the impact of positive books on middle school students studying Africa. Accurate books coupled with informed instruction resulted in high-quality student work. I was totally amazed by the replica of St. George's Church in Lalibela, Ethiopia, complete with murals inside the 2 7th grade girls made, by the cardboard replica of the Great Mosque in Jenne, Mali, that a boy crafted, by the Benin head with a flower made with flower arrangement foam by a budding young sculptor, by the Quranic board with a passage in Arabic and English a Senegalese girl created from her family's cutting board, by the survey that students created to determine which stores in our community sold fair trade chocolate, and by the smart questions they asked when the international representative of Divine Chocolate came to our school. Books and online resources that shine a spotlight on the fascinating and varied continent Africa it breaks down stereotypes, and it helps to produce young people who ask African immigrant students in their classroom intelligent questions and work with them to solve local and global problems. What students read affects what they think, what they believe, and how they behave in our diverse world. The Africa website provides an opportunity, the Africa Access website provides an opportunity to actually measure what students, educators, and parents think about the book they read. On the WordPress pages of the website, users can enter their comments about a book and provide a rating. Here are 2 comments about Lupita Nyong'o's picture book, Sulwe, written by a 6-year-old and by an 8-year-old. Now, here's a 6-year-old. "This book is about a little girl who thought she wasn't beautiful. A shooting star made her realize that she was beautiful. The pictures in the book were the same inside as on the cover. Through the book, I learned that Black is always beautiful. Overall, this book is amazing. The 8-year-old. This book is about a little girl who does not love who she is. It made me wonder, why do people hate how they look? I loved how the book shows how everyone is beautiful in their own way. The pictures were beautiful. Overall, I think that this book was a good learning experience. We are fortunate to have a growing number of books by African authors and African publishers that are available for purchase here in the United States. I would say that one of the most exciting trends in children's Africana is the impact second-generation African-American writers are having on young people, including Nnedi Okorafor, Tochi Onyebuchi, Tome Adeyemi, Jordan Ifweko, who are all, by the way, Nigerian Americans, Somaya Daoud, a Moroccan American, Nansu Isdal, Ugandan American, and Elizabeth Zunan, Ivorian American. They are born in the U.S., but attuned to their parents' cultures. Their books bring fresh depictions of Africa that speak to American youth, many of whom are seeking characters who look like them. Mahogany Bookstore in Southeast Washington hosted an in-person event with Tome Adeyemi and Elizabeth Acevedo last fall. The 400 tickets sold out quickly. Many of those in attendance were teens who treated these writers like rock stars. This August, Loyalty Books held a virtual event that paired new author Jordan Ifweko, a writer of Ray Bearer, with Angie Thomas, author of The Hate U Give. I think pairing Black authors who write about Africa with those who write about African Americans has made a big impact. Africa Access has a number of literary partners who help us promote positive books on Africa. An early and continuing collaborative partner of Africa Access is the Outreach Council of the African Studies Association. Together, Africa Access and ASA founded CABA, the Children's Africana Book Award, to acknowledge outstanding authors and illustrators and promote better books on Africa. The list of CABA winners now includes some 116 titles and hundreds of authors and illustrators. The Outreach Council was the first Area Studies National Resource Center to create a juvenile book award. Now there are 4 more: the Americas Award, the Middle East Award, the South Asia Award, and the Freeman East Asia and South Asia Award. Collectively, we are known as the World Area Book Awards, and we work together to raise awareness about global literature with special outreach to educators who are key allies in our efforts to improve global awareness and understanding. And annually, we have representation at the National Council of Social Studies, the National Council of Teachers of English conferences. Also, we sponsor Meet the Author webinars beginning each January. February is Africa Month, and to date, we have 3 recorded webinars with African authors that you can access on the Africa Access website. The Library of Congress, through the Center for the Book and Young Readers Center at the library, have been promotional partners of Africa Access since 2001. They have hosted receptions, luncheons, and annual book talks for children and young adults. Each year since 2009, the Smithsonian National Museum of African Art has hosted an annual CABA Festival, which includes an authors panel and lots of book-related activities for children and families. During CABA Week, as we now call it, an Open Book Foundation takes CABA winners to Title I schools in metropolitan Washington and provides gift books to young people attending the CABA Book Talks. Howard University has been engaged with Africa Access's mission since Africa Access was founded in 1989. In 2014, when Howard became a Title VI National Resource Center, Howard became the central location for information about CABA. The center also provides professional development workshops that feature children's literature. One of our primary partners is the Center for Contemporary Arab Studies at Georgetown University. Each spring, we host a literature workshop for educators. Public libraries in the Washington metropolitan area are also important partners. Several participate in Africa Access's Read Africa Week. The motto for Read Africa Week is kick off Black History Month with books about Africa and read about Africa all year. Port of Harlem editor Wayne Young supports an annual Read Africa event at Francis Gregory Library in Southeast Washington. And our biggest Read Africa event was organized by DC librarian Leanne Rosenblatt with the help of librarians at MLK Library. Over 500 middle school students came to the library to share poems inspired by the red pencil with author Andrea Pinkney. Books to Brushes conducted a Read African painting session based on the picture book biography of Wangari Maathai at Silver Spring Library in Montgomery County, Maryland. And each of the 24 families that attended went home with a book. In 2018, we connected the Virginia Museum of Fine Art, which is in my hometown of Richmond, Virginia, with Anike Robinson, who is one of our Read Africa teaching artists. Children painted a collective mural based on the folk tale about cont'd, the goat herder that legend says discovered coffee. Other Read Africa artists include Lucina Martin, Bomani Arma, and Karen Brown. Linkage to the African immigrant community in our area is provided by Africa Memory, an organization founded by Paulette Mpuma. Every September, Paulette organizes Teaching Africa Day that invites families and educators to explore resources for reading, teaching, and learning about Africa. Finally, let me turn my attention to our publishing partners. Publishers in the US, Canada, the UK, and Ghana have been very supportive partners of Africa Access in recent years, many providing funds for CABA winners to travel to Washington, D.C. for the CABA Awards ceremony and festival. We are pleased that U.S. publishing houses have improved the quality of books on Africa, especially picture books. However, we urge them to publish more chapter books, especially for beginning readers. Atanuke from the UK has really done a wonderful job providing easy-to-read books through her Anna Hibiscus series. We need more books like these. We need more books, too, that provide and show African agency. We also hope that publishers can find a way to keep these great books in print. So many of them go out of print so quickly. Publishers should make it a point to include Africanists as sensitivity readers. Positive books, even the good ones like we saw, Galimoto and The Fortune Teller, have mistakes. Both books were written and illustrated by Western outsiders. Their errors could have been caught by those who live inside the societies depicted. In general, publishers need to bring diversity to their industry. Authors of color often describe U.S. publishers as gatekeepers who limit the scope of the literature they provide on Africa. Authors of all color complain about publishing gatekeepers, but the gates authors of color have to jump over to get published are higher.
At this point, we are going to make a transition to the Africa Access website. Yeah, here we are. Good. And first, we're going to go to the CABA Awards. We were talking about our CABA books. Not going to spend a lot of time here, but just to show you as you look along the menu, what we have, and scroll down to, yeah, see, these are our winners for 2020. Best Book for Older Readers, Honor Book for Older Readers, and our new category, Best Book for New Adults. And again, at the top, you can see other pages for this website. We have videos and pictures and a complete list of CABA winners. But we're going to click on the button that takes us back to the Africa Access page. And when we come in, we talked about the Read Africa. We're going to look at first at the Read Africa poster. Normally, we would be distributing this poster in the area, but of course, due to COVID, we can't. But you can still see the poster on our website. And if you scroll all the way down, you will see our reading challenge. And we invite you, teachers, particularly librarians, to take up the reading challenge. with your students. I mentioned the Read Africa webinar that we do every February, and we're going to click on that, and you will see the last one was in February with Lizunan, in here are her books. Then Arushirena, South African, her book, which was the February before, and our first one was done by Kenyan Major Mwangi about the Mzungu boy. So you can see all of these webinars. The Africa Access website also has teaching links. We're just going to stop here to let you see that there are book-related lessons that we have here. And you actually, if you click on the link, it will open up to the lesson. When we come down to media, book and media links, we have put here organizations that have a mission that's similar to ours. First one that you see is African Storybook, and Dorcas is a part of that group, and she'll be sharing with you shortly. When you land on Africa Access on the home page, you see a little bit about our mission, and you can see some book covers. There is a search box there. So here on the website here, the WordPress, we have put annotations and reviews of books published since 2013. And so let's type in Sulwe, so we can see what the review of Sulwe looks like in the WordPress format. That you actually, I made a picture of it, and you did see it. So here it is. Here's the real page. And when you scroll all the way down, you can see that this is where you would come and you could actually add your comments about the book. We really invite you to do that because we really want to build up this aspect of the web page. Now, in 2015, we transferred all of our records, which over 2,000, to Follett's Destiny. So this is our comprehensive database. And if you come in here, you will also find Sulwe. So let's look for Sulwe here. As a title, there it is. You click on it and you scroll down, you get lots of information about the book. And one of the reasons that I keep the WordPress site going is because it's kind of hard to read the review here. But there is the review. And if you look under her picture, you'll see Title Peak. You click on Title Peak, that will take you to where Destiny has stored reviews by other journals. So sometimes you want to contrast what our African Studies reviewers say with those that are said by the Book List, School Library Journal, Publishers Weekly. One of the most important parts of our website, I think, is the resource list. And when we come here, these are bibliographies that I have compiled, and we'll click on that one, African authors, so you can get a list. You could click on these to get more information, but we're just scrolling here to show that we have 141 that we have identified. Of course, there are many more, but we're trying to look at those that we know are available here in the United States. I had mentioned the analysis of children's literature, that bibliography, so you can see that that one is there as well if you wanted to explore some of these titles that I mentioned. And you can create your own resource list by creating, you click there, it says create an account. Well, I found that doesn't work, or I don't know how to make it work. But what you can do is you can email me and say that you would like to be a patron in our catalog, and then we will put you in as a user, and then you can create your own list. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to turn it over to Dorcas, and thank you very much.
I'm going to talk about the African Storybook, and you see here is the website. I will show you hopefully at the end how we access the website. And I have a little So the African Storybook was started in 2013. It is an initiative of the South African Institute for Distance Education, and in brief, we call it SADI. It is headquartered in South Africa, but it works across Sub-Saharan Africa, partnering with other organizations that hold the ideals of open learning principles using technology. Now, the African Storybook, we find as it's very relevant for us today because this year, as we celebrated the International Literacy Day, we are reminded that there is almost 1 billion people who can't read. Many of them we know are in Sub-Saharan Africa. And if this is the issue, then we are very sure that we cannot really achieve the Sustainable Development Goal number 4 and its literacy targets. Now, based on research, we know that many children in Africa, after the first 3 years of schooling, do not have the basic literacy skills that can enable them to transit to higher classes. And one of the factors that contributes to this is the shortage of storybooks that they can use to practice their literacy skills in languages that they are familiar with. And we also know that conventional publishing does not meet the needs of most of these children because, as we know, there are very few books, and because there are few books, then there is hardly any reading being done, and therefore there is no demand for the books, and so this leads to a vicious cycle. Now, the African Storybook is trying to respond to this issue, the issue of the shortage of storybooks in languages of the children of Africa. And ours is a digital publishing model which enables people, communities, to be able to contribute their own stories so that they can use them with the children to build their literacy skills. So people can print the storybooks, they can use them straight from the website, or they can combine both. And we have seen this happening with libraries and with schools. On our website, you can create your own storybook using the images that are there, or you can upload your own images and then create the storybook and publish it. You can also translate the storybooks that are already there or adapt them to meet the needs of your audience. And you can also make collections based on either theme or the language or the level, and then enable people to use them. You can create them and make them into an anthology and then print them and use them. The website also has guides to help people on how to use these tools, the tool to create, to translate and adapt, and also to use. We also share news flashes on how people are using our storybooks and stories of use. When we started piloting in 2013, we worked with schools and some libraries to test out on how the process would go. And we wanted to test out actually how people would use the website to create their own stories and how they would use them, and to see what would work and what wouldn't work. Then after 2013 and we moved in 2014, we moved towards encouraging partners. We developed partnerships to encourage them to use the website, to use the apps, to create, to translate, and to adapt the stories to meet the needs of their audiences. And our hope is to develop a community of people in Africa who share their knowledge, who share their local stories in the languages they know best, so that the wider readership can develop. Now, our partners are very important for us, and we have 5 main strategies. Most partners approach us, so they write to us inquiring how we can work together, and we respond to them immediately. So whenever we see a potential partner, either through conferences or when they reach out to us, we actually respond to them immediately and try to find out how we can work together. We also work with local literacy organizations that are trying to answer the needs of the literacy of the children and the communities they work with. We tried as much as possible to work with local education ministries. Like in Kenya, we work with the Ministry of Education through the KICD, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. In South Africa, we work with the DBE, the Department of Basic Education. We also work with international partners like the Global Book Alliance through the Global Digital Literacy Library. We also work with individual people whom we call the African Storybook Champions. And these are people who are working with their communities at the local level in their own countries. And just to give you an example of how effective this has been, last year alone, we had only 6 champions we were working with in Ethiopia, 1 in Ethiopia, and 2 in Kenya, and 2 in Nigeria, and then in Uganda. And they reached over 1,200 teachers. And teachers here, educators are teachers and librarians working with children, and over 80,000 children. Some of the organizations are platforms that take our storybooks and then republish them on their website. One of the examples is Iktabu, which is actually headquartered in Nairobi, but they work across 13 countries in Africa. And what they do is they take our storybooks and make them more accessible for learners with disabilities. So they have some of the storybooks are in Kenya Sign Language, some are in Rwanda Sign Language. They are also in Braille and they are in audio. So this way they are more accessible for other learners, not just those who are able. We also have Pratham Books based in India. Then we have the Global Digital Library, which has most of our storybooks. And then these storybooks are then available on Colibri, which people can access offline without having to worry about data and internet connectivity. Now, the important thing with these partners is they share with us data on how they're using, how many people are benefiting, how they're using them, and what else we can do to make the website more accessible for users. These are just some of our champions. These first 2 are from Nigeria, and he is from Ethiopia, and these here from Kenya. So you can see, for example, here is Simon from Kenya. He uses his motorbike to bring storybooks to other schools that don't have any book. So his school acts like a library for other schools around him. Then from there, he takes the stories to other schools. When they finish using them, they bring them back. So how do we develop our storybooks? How do we make collections? Most of our storybooks are developed through workshops with partners. And through these workshops, we have the unique stories that are developed. And it's important for us to know that most of the books are developed in 2 languages, in either English or French and a local language, so that when we publish the storybook, it comes in 2 languages. We have it in the language of wider communication, but also in a local language. And then we translate storybooks with partners for specific contexts. And then with funding, we also translate them for specific countries. Like this year, we've been translating storybooks with a partner in Malawi for a project there. So we translated 120 storybooks in 6 languages spoken in Malawi. Also through our champions, they introduce this website to people they work with. They create storybooks, they translate, they adapt, and they encourage teachers and librarians and parents to use and to also contribute. Then we have people who independently go onto the website, they discover it, and they create their own storybooks there because they want to have storybooks in a particular language. They create them or translate them to use. Now, as I already mentioned, that all storybooks are published in at least 2 languages. And in all cases, we have built in a quality assurance process so that when a storybook is published on our website, we signal the storybooks that have been quality assured by marking them as ASB approved. Otherwise, if the storybook doesn't have an ASB approved earmark on the top left-hand side of the cover, that storybook shows that it hasn't been checked by a second language expert. All our storybooks are from level 1 to level 5. So level 1 is the very simple ones. And then level 5, we consider them as read aloud storybooks. Now, an educator, that's a teacher or a librarian, will select from these based on the ability of the children that they work with. Now, to develop a story, we have a process that we have come to use, and it's very effective. So when we run a story writing workshop, we encourage people to write out their story, come up with a manuscript, read it out loud for the group to listen to hear, or even to read it out for themselves, to hear it and then see how they can improve it. And then when they get feedback, they edit the story, they write it out again, they read it, and then eventually they decide on what level the story will be, whether it's a level 1, level 2, or level 5. Then once they are happy with that, then they type it out. And if we are illustrating the storybook, then we get these manuscripts, then we commission artwork. Then eventually, when we publish, we send the story back to the author and the artist to have a look to see if they're happy with the way it has turned out before we mark it as ASP approved. Now, storybooks are used in very different ways. I'll just share an example of a teacher here in Kenya who is based among the nomadic people. And he once used a storybook in 3 languages, in the local language, in Kiswahili, and in English. So his class, well, the children were very poor in their reading ability. So he began off by reading a storybook in the local language, which is the Turkana. Then when the children had gained confidence, he exposed them to the Kiswahili storybook of the same title. Then once they gained confidence, he read the story with them in English. And he was kind of moving from one language to the other. And in this way, the children were able to build their vocabulary, they were able to gain confidence, and they even appreciated the fact that they could read a storybook in their own mother tongue, which they had never seen before. During COVID-19, we have had cases where our partners are trying their best to still reuse the storybooks. So one example is from Kibera, which is a very big slum area in Nairobi. And the librarian there found a way of encouraging the children to continue reading even when they were at home. So she got phones from people, from friends, and loaded the storybooks onto those phones, and then basically gave them out. She loaned them out to households to help the children to read and be supervised by their parents. So here it is. So for those whom she could give the phones with storybooks, she loaned them out for a month. But then there are other households that she could not give the phones to. So instead of that, she printed out the storybooks and gave them printed copies. And then the children were able to take them at home and read from home. Another example is another librarian in Mombasa, which is at the coast of Kenya. She started what she called doorstep service. So this was an extra on top of her duties as a librarian in the main library. So what she would do is load the storybooks onto the tablets and laptops and then go to the homes, and observing social distancing, she would encourage the children in the homes as families to read together while she watches over them and encourages them to pronounce the words properly. So here is an example of where she is in her home, the kids are reading, and she's just like being there to support them, to encourage them. The African Storybook also has 2 apps. We have the African Storybook Reader, which can help people to read the storybooks offline. It's like a library in your pocket. And you can download it for free from the Play Store or from App Store and install it on your phone. And then each story that you download to read stays in your library. So later on, you don't need to go back onto the website or need internet to read. You can read it offline then. The other app is a very recent one, which was developed at the end of last year. It's called the African Storybook Maker. And this helps people to create their own storybooks offline. So it's like a publisher in your pocket. And what this does is you download it onto your phone or tablet, and then it comes with over 200 images on it. Or you can use those images to create your own storybook, or you can use images from your own folder on the device, on the phone or tablet. Or if you're working with children, they can draw their own pictures, and then as you type in the text, you take the images and it just goes in. Then at the end, once you are connected to internet, you just click the button publish, and the storybook is published on the main website. Now, the reason why we developed the Maker is because we realize that very many people have limited computer skills. So you will find people can use the phone to type in a message, a text message, but when it comes to managing a computer or a laptop, it becomes a problem. So we thought maybe that might make it easier for them to create their own storybooks and to use. The other thing is, because of a shortage of language, African language storybooks, we thought it will make it easier for people to contribute more and build up the collection of storybooks in African languages. And also we know that connectivity is a big challenge for most people. So if you have a phone, once you download the app on it, you don't need internet, you can create your storybook offline. And then when you have a little bit of data, you click on publish and you publish your storybook. And with this, using the Maker to publish storybooks, we are also trying to encourage teachers and librarians to work with children, to encourage them to write their own storybooks and publish, so that it's not just reading alone, but reading, writing, listening to each other, and speaking about their storybooks and their experiences. Now, at the end of last year, we prepared a guide to help teachers and librarians to use this to write storybooks. And then we actually tested it out by working with a group of children in South Africa who are from war-torn countries. Most of them were from DRC. And these are some of the titles that they came up with. So it gave the children an opportunity to talk about what they have gone through. Like a child talking about everyone goes to Malawi. They were talking about when war broke out and they had to trek from one country to another, heading towards Malawi. Eventually, they found their way in South Africa. So we are encouraging teachers and librarians and even parents to help children talk about their experiences through story writing. And the Maker is very important. It's very easy to use, and it enables them to work independently. Now, we monitor visitors on our website, those who are the returning visitors, how many sessions they spend, the average duration, etc., etc. We also monitor the number of downloads. In July, we had over 300,000 downloads from the website. And this is only from the website, because we know that there are other people who are accessing our storybooks offline, and this is a challenge for us to know, especially on Colibri and other partners who use our storybooks offline, so we are not able to tell. But in July, we had the highest actually since the year began. We had over 300,000. We also try to see what devices people are using, whether it's a desktop, a tablet, or a phone. And more we are realizing that many people are using mobile phones, not so many by using desktop computers. We also monitor the number of new storybooks that are developed, because we know people can go onto the website independently and create the storybooks. So every month we monitor to know how many new storybooks, how many new translations and adaptations have been done. And then we also monitor the number of storybooks we have approved. That is the ones we have checked, and then we have earmarked ASB approved. And this process happens within our group. So those of us who have the specific language expertise do that for the storybooks in those languages. But if we don't have, then we commission people outside as consultants to quality assure the storybooks in the local languages. We also monitor the number of platforms that upload our storybooks and use them so that we are able to follow up on usage. And then the last thing which is very important, we follow to find out how many people are benefiting, children and adults as well. Now, just the last 3 months, that is, like so September, August, and July, these are the numbers that we have monitored. And as I said, it's very difficult to know the number of those who are using our storybooks, especially those who are accessing them offline, not directly from our website. And we are very proud to know that as of now, we have storybooks in 211 African languages and over 6,000 storybooks. Those are including translations. We have over 1,500 storybooks that are unique, that were created either through our workshop or people created and independently of us. So I just like to go up and show you the website if I have a bit of time, just a little bit. If I can open. So on our website, you can, if you go on to read, you click on the read button, and then the website opens, and you can select the language in which you want to read your storybooks. So you scroll down, and then you select the language you want to read in. So if it's English, you can do the English. And then if you want to read a storybook, you see we have reading levels here. The numbers here represent the reading levels, and the tick shows that the storybook has been ASB approved. And if you click here, where you have all storybooks, if you click in this round circle, then it gives you all the storybooks, including those ones that have not been checked. That's why you see some of them don't have a tick beside them. We have collections there, and if you want to create, you use this, you have to register, then you click on make, and then you go in, you either create or translate or adapt a storybook. Under use, we have examples of how people have used the storybooks. These are stories of how our champions and our partners are using our storybooks. And you can also make your own contribution. You can also look for a story based on the story of use based on date. So it will give you the most recent, etc. So I invite you to join the website, to look through, to find out how you can participate. Otherwise, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
So we have quite a few questions that we would love to get through in the next 10 minutes. I will just start off with the first question here. And it is there any way to get books in African languages for US students whose families find it important to keep their African languages alive? It would also help US students and faculty in higher ed who are teaching and learning African languages.
Because I had planned to put a part of that into my presentation, but because of COVID, I couldn't actually go and check. But from my experience before, I know that Sankofa Bookstore that is here in the Washington area, they have a lot of books that are in Amharic. And the Silver Spring Library and a couple of other libraries in Montgomery County do provide books in other languages. And Silver Spring even has a book talk once a month in Amharic. but that's what I know about the Washington area. Oftentimes when people ask me, I recommend the Storybook because a lot of times people are looking for books in Swahili. And I suggest that they go to the website so that they can access it, and they're very appreciative of that.
Next question from Kath. Do you have champions in Ghana?
Actually, we are looking for a champion from Ghana. So we are in the process. So all we need to know is for someone who is really interested to work with us, and I will get in touch with them.
Next question from Eve. Do you have any resources or guidance for authors looking to write and publish YA or children books specifically about African and African diaspora culture?
Yes, one of the things I meant to show, but I forgot to show on our website, under reviews, we have a part that deals with evaluation. And if you go there, you'll see like do's and don'ts about writing. And then you will see, we have something that we call, that I think would be useful for writers. We have these analytical tools that help us when we are evaluating books. And that would be useful for writers to actually go through that process to see, well, what happens when I write this book? What are the political things that are showing? And so we do have those. And then finally, because I get this question all the time and I have very limited knowledge about it, we recommend that they go, we have a click on under the review that they can go to the Society for Children's Writers and Illustrators, which have wonderful workshops all over the country that can help guide young, new writers, groups that they can attend, because I think we do see these books that look like they haven't been vetted. So that there's good for perhaps use in the family, but if you want a larger audience, you're really going to have to go through a vetting process. And you can start with a small group that's in your community, these writing groups, and they can do a lot to help you.
Excellent. The next question is, I believe, directed to Janet, and I believe you touched upon it at the beginning of our session. So maybe you can just expound on it a little bit more. Will you be sharing a recorded version of this presentation that we can share with others? Where would that be? How would they be able to access that?
My understanding is that all participants will receive a link to the video recording once the video recording is published, and it will be available online. So you should get an email message saying it's available online. One quickly, Dorcas, people are asking to see you. So could you turn your video on?
Hello.
Thank you.
At one point, power went off. That's why I turned it off.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The next question here is from Dira. I have been privileged to meet Brenda and receive donations from the Center for African Studies to bring with me traveling to Kenya. They have been well utilized with local children. Have there been any large-scale initiatives with shipping companies to tap into CSR funding projects to get more books on the continent? If not, how can we pitch this to some of these companies?
Yes, thank you for that. Well, first of all, let me say that the Center for African Studies is a Title VI center. Our efforts are directed to US teachers. So, but we do have some books that we have extra, and that's how she was able to get those books, but we don't have a large scale effort because we sort of leave that to the African Studies Association. And there are a number of organizations that do that kind of work to get books to Africa. We did have a project for one of our winning books, and we raised money through Harriet McGuire, who I think is on here, if she gets a chance to speak a little bit. So we raised money when we had a dinner, and then we took that Kaba book and we donated it to schools in Ghana. We'd like to do more of that.
Next question. How can illustrators, even youth, be included in the pool of artists for storybook illustrations with African Storybook?
So at the moment, the easiest way is to use the African Storybook Maker, because then you can do your own images and then upload them. And then but you need to create a storybook. They don't sit alone. They go together with the text. So in that way, they will be in the database and other people can actually use them. Also, I think it's important for them to share with us their portfolio, because then when we want to engage with other new artists, it's easy to draw from a pool of artists. At the moment, we have artists from South Africa, from Uganda, and West Africa.
Thank you. I'm not completely sure about this question. I'm not quite sure if it's US centric, but the question is, it was, what is it? The questioner is asking, I am interested in how you find local authors and illustrators in Africa Access Database.
Oh, that's a good question. That is something that I could work on to perhaps provide, like we have the resource list, but that's kind of complicated because you would have to know where the person was. And so, but we'll give that some thought.
Next question. I would like to have a list of websites where one can have access to free books at no cost. This
is the one I'm talking about. The African Storybook is free. You don't need permission. So that's the first website. And then when you go on there, you'll find our partners, and some of the partners, of course, I've mentioned them. So anything, if from my PowerPoint, all the partners I mentioned, you get the storybooks for free.
I could just, my sort of knowledge about it is, of course, limited to the Washington metropolitan area, but an Open Book Foundation is one of our partners, and they provide free books through to Title I schools. So that's an opportunity. If the school is a Title I school, you know about it, and you want the students to have books, then I would suggest you get in touch with an Open Book Foundation.
Okay, and so I'm not sure who this question is directed to, either Brenda or Dorcas. Please, I would like to know if you have contact here in Nigeria, and how can the library be a partnership with your organization?
Africa Access doesn't, so.
I didn't get the first word. There was a word I didn't get.
If there's contact in Nigeria, and if you do you have contact in Nigeria?
Yes, we have 2 champions in Nigeria, actually.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Eric, I think this will be the last question.
Okay. Okay. The last question here is, are there ways to get funding to either point out African Storybook for librarians in Africa, or get tablets loaded with African Storybook in particular languages?
You didn't get that question.
Okay, I'll read it again. Are there ways to get funding or to either print out African storybooks for libraries in Africa, or get tablets loaded with African Storybook in particular languages? So
yes, you can.
Part of that is an access question.
Yes, you can do both. You can print them out, or actually all the storybooks on our website are print ready. So you go to a printer, you say you send them the titles and they print them, or you can print from any printer. or you can download the app, the reader, and download all the books onto that and preload the tablets or phones and send them to the libraries.
Thank you.
Thank you. It is time to close our programs. Thanks to all of our speakers, Brenda Randolph and Dorcas Wepukhulu, for an excellent, excellent program. So I think we need to give everyone, all of our speakers, a virtual round of applause. Thanks
Thank you.
also to Eric Ponder for his assistance in the Q&A session. And a big shout out to the American Library Association for their assistance in promotion and in technical assistance throughout this program. And we look forward to future programs sponsored by the American Library Association. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Janet, there's some really interesting questions remaining, so hopefully they'll be saved, correct?
I believe so. So